This is Newcap News with Bart Pediasic.
Good evening. A 39-year-old Leduc man is facing several charges following an incident near Fort Kent. Bonnyville RCMP are reporting that last Wednesday around 5 p.m. they received a complaint of a possible impaired driver on Highway 41 westbound. The vehicle was later determined to be stolen out of Vermilion. The driver was found to have a blood alcohol content over twice the legal limit. He was charged with impaired driving, possession of a stolen property, driving while disqualified, dangerous operation of a motor vehicle, and several provincial offences. He was taken to Vermilion to deal with the charges. Well, today is World AIDS Day. Across the country, people are fundraising and spreading the message, all in an attempt to raise awareness about the deadly virus. In Lloydminster, today also marks the beginning of Aboriginal AIDS Awareness Week. The week's events kicked off with an honor walk respecting those who have lost their lives to HIV or AIDS and those who are living with the illness. Megan Larson says more understanding will help reduce discrimination.
It could help people to realize it's not a bad thing to help others to get along and get past that.
According to Prairie North outreach worker Carrie Giodat, 17 out of every 100,000 people in Saskatchewan have the HIV virus, many of those Aboriginals who face harsh judgment instead of the support they need.
Breaking down those walls of and the barriers of stigma and discrimination, I feel and very deeply believe that it is something that everybody needs to become aware of and learn about and talk about.
There will be workshops, free meals, and a guest speaker throughout the week. For more information, you can call the Friendship Centre at 306-825-6558. Well, there is a new face heading up the Lloydminster Men's Shelter. Laura Burby has been in the border city for 6 weeks now and is the new executive director. Burby is still getting used to her new surroundings as she came from Saskatoon and originally worked with women and children.
Men are interesting. It's been a nice change. It's been a nice change dealing with people over the age of 18. So I'm excited. It's been learning and growing and trying to figure things out as we go.
One of Burby's biggest concerns is the lack of services for homeless in the city, other than the men's shelter, which can only house 28 people.
There's really nowhere for them to go, and we don't have a MAT program, so we can't take an overflow, which is another part of the problem. There is not a secondary location for them to be.
The Gibney House, which is a secondary housing with affordable room rental, is expected to be ready early next year. According to the Alberta RCMP, alcohol has been a factor in up to 40% of road deaths for the past 15 years in Canada. Concerning numbers, as a recent Stats Canada report says, Alberta's impaired driving rate is 70% higher than the national average. In our regular RCMP interview, we sit down to talk with Inspector Suki Manj to find out how big of an issue this is in the border city.
It is an issue when people are dying every year from unnecessary accidents. So it's serious. Anytime anybody is injured or loses their life, it's a real serious matter.
And so what makes December any different from any other month?
Well, as you probably are aware, in your own personal life, you have a lot of commitments where your social gatherings, where you're having a few cocktails, alcoholic beverages, and sometimes you lose your judgment when you're doing that without a plan. So,
and do we see a rise in that in December?
I think people are more aware of it, so are we, and we are looking for that offense more often. But mostly it's about prevention. So we try to message to people, get a safe ride home, prepare, plan. Anytime you do those kind of things, you're less likely to be harm to yourself or others. And
you're telling me that the RCMP this month is kind of getting out in the community, sending out this message. What are we doing?
We're actively doing road checks, so you can anticipate seeing police vehicles out and about with lights on and stationary, doing road checks, checking for people that have been drinking, checking just normal things. And it's not always drinking. It could be use of soft or hard drugs. So we often find that as well.
Finally, what advice would you give to someone that's out there and maybe has a drink or two and thinks, I'm good enough to drive?
Well, if you have to think about it, you're probably over what people expect you to be. So whether you're over a legal limit or not, there's still impaired driving. There's a difference between over 0.08 and impaired. And sometimes it all depends on whether you had anything to eat, whether you've slept. All those combinations come together, and sometimes just the drinks alone won't tell you if you're impaired or not.